with us?
I think I am. This thing has its own mind.
Okay, perfect. Then with that, I will call this meeting to order. And I'm just going to start by moving up the superintendent's report, moving it up to after the Pledge of Allegiance, if that's okay, Dr. Negron.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Yarborough, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of
United States of America,
America,
to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Dr. Negron?
Good evening, everyone. Very excited to be here again. I think this is I'm losing track, either my second or my third Board of Education meeting. Today, first, before I begin with my superintendent report, I did want to ask if it's possible to go into executive session so that I can update the board on some security, cybersecurity efforts ongoing to make sure that we are keeping our systems safe. Also want to make sure that we do it in executive session, as I do not wish to disclose tactics and techniques that are currently being utilized in the system.
Thank you, Dr. Negron. Mr. Golton?
Madam President, I actually drafted a motion to amend the agenda to add that item.
Okay.
I'll be willing to make the motion if you so choose.
That's fine. Should we wait until after the superintendent's report, or are you okay with doing that now?
Whenever you want.
Dr. Negron?
Yeah.
Want to complete your report, or do
Thank
you
you.
want us to go into, okay.
For my superintendent's report today, first, we know, right, very exciting. We're 2 weeks from today. We will be welcoming and convening our administrators and teachers to kick off our 23-24 academic year. I want to make this a true celebration to acknowledge the amazing work that our staff does day in and day out. And also, given that it's my first official year as a superintendent, I want to share pieces and details around not only my entry plan, but also some of the priorities for the academic year. But again, I want it to be a complete spirit of celebrating all the great things that are happening in the district. I want to thank all the partners already that have answered the call to support the event. So I'm hoping that at the next, maybe FNO, I can give you more details related to the actual convocation. But I do want the public to be aware that it is on Monday, August 28th. It'll be at 9 o'clock at the field house in person for administrators and teachers. There will be a opportunity to come in virtually for parents, because I also want parents to be able to see the celebration and be able to join us in the celebration. So again, more details about that. But again, mark your calendars, Monday, August 28th,
Okay.
9 o'clock. And today, I want to give you an update as to where we are related to our staffing, because again, it's all about being ready to welcome our kids who are starting on August 31st. So thank you for having my presentation ready to go. So we can go to the next slide. So similar to other districts around the state and the nation, we're also experiencing teacher shortages. Vacancy numbers change daily and are being tracked in real time in our human resource department. As of today, August 14th, here are our current vacancies. we're still looking to fill 2 administrator position. That is the principal of Hill House and also 1 assistant principal, as well as 106 classroom teacher vacancies. I do want to celebrate the fact that that number would have been 166. It is 106 because 60 elementary level vacancies were filled by teachers from our Grow Our Own approach to recruitment that we do in partnership with Southern Connecticut State University. These teachers began their path towards certification 2 years ago with financial support from our ESSER 2 funds. They began employment with the district as non-certified employees. They participated in the partnership with SCSU. They earned teacher salary working under a durational shortage area permit while they were completing their certification program. And now I'm excited to share that they're going to be transitioning into those vacancy positions in the district. So again, just to highlight one approach that proving right to be of benefit. The team is continuing to work hard to fill a variety of non-classroom vacancies, as well as you see here on the slide. And I also want to know that we are taking proactive measures. For example, we are already aware that there will be 12 teachers on FMLA or extended leave to start the year. And we have already worked out plans to have degree substitute teachers who are going to be filling up those FMLAs. So again, a lot of things being done with intentionality because we want to make sure that all our kids are going to have a teacher with them all year long. On this slide, I just want to point out that math, science, and special education continue to be our hardest to fill areas, and they represent over half of our vacancies. Middle grades in general have also been very challenging. We are in a better place with social studies and language arts in the middle grades now, but again, still struggling with these areas that you see here. And our highest need schools in terms of vacancies as of today are Betsy Ross, Clemente, Co-op, ESOMS, Hill House, and Wexler Grant. But we're working aggressively on recruitment. And today in the next slide, I want to debut the recruitment video that has been put together that will be utilized starting today and throughout the year to continue our efforts to recruit effective and diverse staff for deserving schools and students. We want people to hear firsthand from some of our current employees in the short video that New Haven Public Schools is a great place to find your future. So if we can just indulge us in about less than 3 minutes to check out the video. Perfect, thank you. Worth the wait, I think you're gonna love it. As that is being set up, I can also share that we are in the process of making sure that this is prevalent in our website so that it is easy to find as people come and visit it.
Use that laptop.
Mm.
Uh, we have a sound problem. Am I the only one that can't hear this?
No, Dr. Joyner, I cannot hear it either.
It's a beautiful pictures.
Beautiful, and I love to see like all the different
Oh yeah.
things that we offer to kids, and
Mhm.
they look excited.
Oh wow. Mhm.
We'll be using to recruit future members of the New Haven Public Schools. It is an amazing place. It is why I chose to return, and I'm hoping that we will be able to attract others to join the amazing work that we're doing, striving towards the next chapter of excellence within NHPS. In terms of our, well, if we can go
Feedback.
back to our slide.
It used to be good.
Can come back to the slide deck. Thank you. The next. Wanted to highlight some of the other things that are part of the strategy around recruitment. In the area of talent, our goal will be to restructure and implement a system for recruiting, hiring, supporting, and retaining staff, which is already articulated in our district strategic operating plan. We will be honing in on 3 key levers: teacher career pathways, strategic participation in recruitment fairs and events, and recruitment beyond Connecticut. In the teacher career pathway, we will expand our para-pro prep support for adult education students, NHPS employees, and New Haven residents who are interested in becoming paraprofessionals who do not yet hold an associate's degree. I wanted to take this opportunity to give a shout out to the paraprofessionals union leadership, especially Heikles Williams, who supported the district in marketing the para-pro prep support. It resulted in 50 individuals attending an info session, and now 20 of them this summer have been preparing to successfully pass the test. We are very optimistic that they will with the support they have received, which means they will be entering and supporting in our classrooms in this academic year. We will further define our current partnerships and expand to new partners to provide NHPS employees with low-cost bachelor's options leading to certification. We will further define our current partnerships and expand to new partners to provide current employees with bachelor degrees with certification pathways options. We also intend to be very strategic in our participation in recruitment fairs, responding to data. Attendance at career fairs is important for visibility. However, our data from applicants does not indicate that it is a significant referral source. So we will aim our time and resources accordingly when deciding to attend an event such as a career fair. So for example, data as of July 5th, only 1.6 of the applicants indicated that they learned about the opportunity they applied for from a career fair. The most significant referral are our own employees. That's 28.5%, followed by our website with 24.2%, and CT REAP with an 18%. That's why I'm encouraging everybody. You are our best efforts when it comes to recruitment. Continue to share the great work that happens in NHPS. Refer them to things like this video that is going to be up on our website fairly soon. We will also focus our recruitment beyond Connecticut. We know from some of our own successes with hires from outside Connecticut and from the work some of our neighbors in Connecticut are doing, that recruitment from places like Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Texas, HBCUs can result in effective and diverse staff who will remain with us. So I want to make sure that we're making efforts to continue to diversify our staff, because it is important that our students see representation in all of our classrooms. So again, I wanted to let you know where we stand as it relates to staffing, knowing that we're going to be eagerly welcoming back our students on August 31st. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Negron. Questions or comments for Dr. Negron? Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Dr. Negron. This is an excellent report. I don't remember getting a report like this at the beginning of the year. In 7.5 years I've been on here. It's informative, and I appreciate this information. I actually have one question and 2 comments. First, the question is in terms of the 103 classroom vacancies that we have at this point, where does that, how does that compare to past years? What were the vacancies, those
So in
would be?
meeting with our HR personnel, we do see that we began tracking this type of data, but that did not start until January of 2023. So the historical data that we have is what I actually included in your packet in one of the slides. But again, at least now moving forward, we'll be able to make those comparisons month by month with where we stand.
One of the things that I like to see happen if possible, we were hearing for years and years that folks were leaving because 1, the pay wasn't competitive, and 2, they didn't feel, what was the words, respected here in the school system. When you have folks that are leaving, can you start tracking what their reasoning is behind leaving? Because I'd like to know if that increase that we did in the contract was helpful with retaining folks.
Absolutely, that would be possible because the district already practices exit interviews. So it's a matter of being intentional to ensure that folks do participate in that exit interview, so we can capture all the necessary data, but then we can go and do a deep analysis again on what else could possibly be done when people are entertaining leaving us. It will be very valuable.
All right, 2 more comments, very quick. In terms of recruitment beyond Connecticut, one of the things that you mentioned is that we are our best recruiters. So I am volunteering my services when you guys go to Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, or Jamaica. I just want to let you know, I'm
Mr.
here,
Wilson, do you
I'm
speak Spanish?
available, and I'll be more than happy to help out with that. And one of the comments I want to make is in terms of the video, maybe because it started, I wasn't watching the beginning because there were the things that were going on. But in terms of the teachers in that video, I didn't see a lot of diversity. I'm not quite sure if I missed it or not. And certainly I'm happy that we're in Connecticut and I could actually bring that up. I mean, in Texas, they would have ran me out of the room. In Florida, they would have put me in jail, just to mention it. But I hope that if it was there, if I missed it, if it's not, I hope in the future we would make sure to. I mean, if we want to recruit from Jamaica, Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic, I think folks want to see similar type folks working here and hearing how they feel about working in this environment.
So Mr. Golson, great comment. Again, our intent was to be, show the beautiful diversity that we have within the district. There is diversity there. Can we increase it? Absolutely, because we have plenty of it in our district. So we will be sure to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilcox?
Just one brief follow-on comment when it comes to tracking exit interview data. One thing that's also good is to work with the unions because they also in the past have tracked that as well. And we anecdotally hear that sometimes the district will get one answer, the union might get another answer that might be a little more nuanced. And so cooperating with them might yield a full picture. So for instance, somebody might take a job closer to their house. And so they say, I moved for the job closer to my house, but they might tell the union, yeah, it was closer to my house and I don't have to deal with whatever this other issue is. So just a follow-up on that. Thank you.
Dr. Yarborough?
Thank you. In a similar vein on the topic, I think we can glean information from our cultural survey for the team members who stay. You know, why they're staying. It's hard to change things for people who are leaving, but for those who are staying, who we want to keep and we continue to appreciate, maybe we can get information about, you know, why they're here, why they're staying, why the longevity, or why they choose to begin their careers here. And that can give us information to act upon. And it might be the case that the pay is the reason why they started to come here, or the diversity of the district is the reason why they chose to be here and continue to stay.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Okay, seeing no further questions, Mr. Golson?
Thank you, Madam President. I know that we have to go into public participation, but I understand that we were going to do after the superintendent's report, a motion to amend the agenda to add an executive session. So would you like me to do that now?
Sure.
All right, terrific. I sent this out to all the board members, but if you want another copy of it, I have a written copy here. To amend the agenda for today's meeting to add an executive session to be briefed by the superintendent on the theft of over $6 million in school funds. The exact language of the executive session is executive session to discuss the theft of New Haven public funds pursuant to Connecticut statute section 1-200 6E and 1-210 B3D regarding discussion of any matter which would result in the disclosure of public records or the information contained therein described in subsection B of section 1-210 and regarding information to be used in prospective law enforcement action if such information is if such information in public is prejudicial to such action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who do we pick? Dr. Benitez seconded?
Yes.
Okay, and so just as a reminder, we'll need, because 7 of us are here, we'll need five votes to amend the agenda. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Des,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so that motion carries.
Madam President,
Mr. Goldson,
I had one other motion that I was going to make. I'd like to have a quick discussion with you in regards to whether or not this is going to be on our agenda sometime in the future. And that is to have a briefing by law enforcement. I think I heard that you may be adding that to the agenda, to an agenda soon. So I don't think I have to make the motion or a motion to do that if you've already considered adding that to our agenda in the future. I'd just like to get an idea of what the timing is.
I am. My plan was, as you know, was to add it as an executive session for today's meeting, just so that we can discuss it as a board. However, to have like law enforcement come and brief us, I think we have to wait a little bit because at this moment, from what I hear, they can't really say too much about what's happening because it's an ongoing investigation.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome.
I reserve the right to maybe bring this up again after we have the session with the executive,
Of
with the
course.
superintendent to get more information.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so we'll move on. Mr. Wilcox, did you have your hand up? Okay. We'll move on to public comments.
Okay. Public comment is 4 minutes.
3 minutes, Mr.
Three, you know what? I got this thing set for 4 minutes. I'm sorry. Let me do it. Public comments is 3 minutes. This is the timer. I'll let you know when you have, when your time has expired, and I'll give you a 5-second grace period to finish your sentence. Please observe the laws of our public comment. I'm
Thank you,
ready
Dr.
for
Joyner.
first comment of Dr. White.
Okay, our first speaker is Jeremy Sholek. Jeremy Sholek, please, you can come up here. Yep. Speak into the mic so that those online can.
Okay. Is it okay if I lift this up a little bit? All right. You setting the timer now?
Yeah, I have it set.
Okay. All right, if I begin?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my name is Jeremy Schulich. I live in Worcester Square in New Haven, and I'm here representing the Greater New Haven Clean Cities Coalition. So one of our projects has been to help facilitate the deployment of electric school buses for New Haven Public Schools. So I hope that we can all agree on the harms presented by diesel school buses. They spew pollution directly into the air our children breathe and contribute to our community's greenhouse gases. This is why, following similar state and city mandates, the Board of Ed pledged to electrify all school buses by 2030 as part of its climate emergency resolution last year. At the time, NHPS Chief of Operations said, quote, "Building a better future for our children and school district is important to me. The timeline for this is extremely ambitious, but we're going to do everything that we can to be as successful as possible," end quote. So we commend Board of Ed leadership for setting these critical targets. However, NHPS has now twice passed up on federal dollars that could help dramatically. The EPA's Clean School Bus Program, derived from the bipartisan infrastructure law, is the largest source of funding available for electric school buses nationwide. Applications for the current round of grants are due August 22nd. New Haven, because of our poor air quality and poverty rate, is considered a prioritized community eligible for enhanced funding. And First Student, our NHPS's longstanding contractor, offered to apply on our behalf in spite of only having a 1-year contract. So things were looking good until we recently learned that NHPS refused to give a letter of support, just as it had last year. So I sympathize that negotiations can be painstaking, and I respect NHPS's efforts in weighing the many considerations here. but chief among them must be the tremendous opportunity presented by this grant. Furthermore, First Student is the leader of electric school bus deployment in North America and is willing to spearhead this project for us. So surely there must be some way that we can capitalize on this as other communities have. Moreover, if the Board of Ed is going to walk its talk, can NHPS afford to wait until the stars align around a more ideal contract? The very purpose of setting targets is to spur us forward, to move past business as usual roadblocks in pursuit of a higher cause. What matters most is that we start moving in the right direction now. Targets are just hot air unless they are acted upon. So we call on the Board of Ed to direct staff to take advantage of all federal and state funding available for electric school buses, this current EPA grant, if still possible, and all future opportunities. Greater New Haven Clean Cities stands ready to assist NHPS however we can. We're designated by the Department of Energy just for this purpose. So let us know how we can help. Please, when it comes to the health of our children and the stability of our climate, don't miss the bus. Get on board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Madam President, that concludes all hands raised and all present.
Thank you, Dr. White. Thank you, Dr. White. And so we'll move on to the action items. The first being the approval of the board meeting minutes. We'll do them separately for July 24th, 2023, and the revised July 10th, 2023 minutes. There a motion to approve, Mr. Wilcox?
I move we approve the July 10th, 2023 minutes.
July 10th? Okay.
Second, second.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote to approve the July 10th, 2023 board meeting minutes. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes,
Mr. Golton,
Abstain. I didn't read
Dr.
them,
Benitez?
so.
Okay,
Yes,
Dr. Benitez, yes. Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so that motion carries. Mr. Wilcox,
I move that we approve the July 24th, 2023 minutes.
second.
thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Dr. Joyner. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote to approve the revised July 10th, to July 24th, 2023 meeting minutes. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes,
Dr. Benitez,
yes,
Mr. Goldson,
Abstain.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, and that motion carries. And so we'll move on to the personnel report, the action items. Dr. Negron?
Thank you. Hereby asking for approval of the personal report that's included in your packet.
So moved.
second.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson and Dr. Joyner. Questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote on the action items of the personnel report. Dr. Negron, did you want to?
Yes,
something?
just one more comment, realizing that our Board of Ed meeting, our next one is not until the first day of convocation, which is the 28th. Wondering if similar to years past, that we could have the authority to continue with the hiring process as to make sure that we are onboarding anyone that we're able to hire between now and the next board meeting.
Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. We have done that in the past. Would that be considered a separate motion? Would it,
Yeah.
we amend this motion?
That would be a separate motion.
Okay.
Yeah, just to keep it as
Okay.
clean as possible. Okay, so we'll vote on the current action items of the personnel report. Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes,
Mr. Wilcox, Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, so that item carries. Mr. Golton?
I guess I will make a motion to amend the
Sure.
agenda to allow for the superintendent to hire positions at the teacher level and below between now and our next board meeting. Is that what we're being asked for? I assume that those are going to come to us at the next meeting for a retroactive approval. Is that correct?
Correct.
Second.
Any questions or comments on amending the agenda to include that item?
I have a question, Madam
Order?
Chair.
I don't think we have to amend the agenda. Dr. Joyner?
Will that prevent Dr. Negron from hiring principals and assistant principals if they become available during that time span?
Is she asking for that authority?
No, I'm just
You want
asking. I don't know what the situation is. If she needs it, we should grant it.
Well, the motion, as Mr. Golson stated, it would prevent her from hiring principals and assistant principals. So I guess the question is she asking for that authority?
If I may, I would like to expand on the ask. I would love to have the ability also, should we find a candidate for the either principal or assistant principal, knowing that there are 2 current vacancies right now that I shared with you during the report today.
Amend my motion, Madam President, to add principal and below.
Mayor
Second.
Elicker? Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Golson?
Well, I
Uh,
amended my
Mr.
agenda. I don't know who
Yeah.
seconded that in the first place. Was that
Dr.
Dr. Joyner?
Joyner.
Okay.
Not,
Mayor
not
Elicker?
to make this more complicated, but Mr. Goals is in teachers and below.
No.
It-
Just say principals and below.
Okay, so that covers, all right, guidance counselors, so.
Everybody below.
Excellent, thank you.
These principal.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So we're voting to amend the agenda to include that action item? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, Mr. Golson,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yeah.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and that item carries. Now
Madam
the
President,
motion-
I move the item.
Thank you, Mr. Golson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Any questions or comments? Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, just a request that if it's for a principal or assistant principal position, that board members are notified. So that if there are any questions or comments or things that people need to raise, they have that chance to do that. So that request, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote on the item. Mr. Goldson. Oh, Dr. Yarborough.
What Mr. Wilcox has raised, does that need to be a part of the motion or that can just be agreement and request?
No,
Okay.
it can just be the agreement that Dr. Negron will follow up on that.
I like the idea. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, we'll vote on that item. Mr. Goldson, you were a yes.
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so that item carries. Does that conclude your report, Dr. Negron? You? And so we'll move on to finance and operations. Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you very much. I had the request to move some of these items separately, so there'll be several motions tonight related to the finance and operations action items. The first one is Agreement 13. This is an agreement with Excel Academy. So I'm sorry, I put this in the form of a motion. I move that we approve the agreement with Excel Academy to provide an instructor for 20 students interested in CNA certification at Wilbercross High School.
I'm sorry. I'm the one who made that request, I'm sorry, Madam President. I'm the one who made that request, and this is actually, I don't believe this is the one that I was actually questioning. Did the numbers change from your finance committee meeting to this board agenda?
They very well could have, so I was going by the
Yeah.
board agenda items.
Yeah, I think I think it did. I'm sorry. Could we go past that for a second so I can figure out which one I was talking about?
Can do. So I withdraw that partial motion and move on to, I move that we approve purchase order number 5 with Brightly Software to provide facilities department with work order management software.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Dr. Yarborough? Any questions or comments? Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. The reason why I raised this issue, I looked at the documentation. This software increased 22%. I looked at the paperwork and I couldn't find any record of bids or quotes. And a matter of fact, I believe that the documentation said that there wasn't bids or quotes, but that it was a contract that we had used in the past, so we felt comfortable with. We've had these issues come up before when we were doing the choice program bids, and they weren't doing bids, they were just choosing contractors that they felt comfortable with. And we were able to, I think, convince them to withdraw those and put some of them back out to bid. I'm not quite sure why this is happening again, especially since there was a 22% increase in the cost. So I'm not trying to convince anybody to vote any other way, but I'm going to vote no on this unless I get a good explanation why this wasn't put out for bid or to accept quotes.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, thank you. So we did have, I went back and looked at the video of the meeting. We did have a 5-minute discussion on this item. Part of the, or I think all of the reason for the large increase is this is the School Dude software, which is, I think unfortunately named, but that company was purchased by another company. And then that company was purchased by an additional company. So it changed hands twice in the last fiscal year. And so that they greatly increased the price. Staff did testify that they were putting together an RFP process. There were some issues with that in taking the time to do that right. There was, because there's a lot of layered issues in this software that is used to track all facilities, issues, requests, work orders, et cetera, in the systems. It's heavily used software. I think they did say they had quotes. I mean, it's originally was quotes was the original agreement. So I think that's, I'd have to look at the tape again to see if it was fresh quotes right now or not. I think that's my understanding, but I could be incorrect.
Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. I didn't look at the tape, but I did look at the paperwork that was submitted by the administration regarding this item, and they said they did not take any quotes, that this was a contractor they had worked with in the past, and they felt comfortable with them. That is, our policies say something, they should be doing something different. And I think we should, especially after what happened with this latest $6 million theft, we should be following our policies. And no matter how many hands they change through, that certainly should give us pause about going with a contractor without seeing what the competition is willing to offer. If there's no competition, then it's a different story. But we didn't even try to get to consider if there was competition to this. So again, I'm just going on what the paperwork said, and the paperwork that the administration submitted said that there were no quotes or bids on this.
Dr. Yarborough?
Yes, to Mr. Goldson's point and to what Mr. Wilcox referenced, I asked the district to clarify, but I think they are searching for a different vendor and have begun that process, but it was not completed in time for what we need. So I'll ask clarification. I don't know if that's Mr. Lamb or.
Mr. Lamb?
We also could, In interest of time, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead,
Um,
go ahead, Mr. Wilcox.
We could also see what the implications are of sending us back to the F and O committee to get answers to this. So we can move on with the meeting.
Thank you. Just to provide some clarification on this item. The School Dude software is a extremely complicated process in order to switch from one contractor or one vendor to another. It's extremely embedded into the workflow for the district. We have approximately 200 users within the system, and all of our systems and processes in place would require retraining of all of those staff on putting in additional work orders for services, along with all of our preventative maintenance practices, which are already in place as well. School Dude is no longer supported by Brightly. It is a unsupported platform. In the last 6 months, my team has put together an RFP, which has gone out through the purchasing process. It has been awarded. It has been scored and is about to be awarded. However, there are some significant questions that we have for the vendor about process and transition. Typically, a work order migration like this, a work order system migration would take about a year to do it the right way. That would include doing an asset capture of all of our assets throughout the district, which would be in excess of 10,000 items. That would require us to do deep dives into not only the asset inventory to make sure that it's correct, but also do deep dives into processes and procedures to ensure that those processes and procedures are carried over from one platform to another. So the goal with this would be to, if Brightly, the company Brightly, was to be awarded the new contract for continuation of services, this cost would be layered into their new proposal and would be absorbed into the new contract. If we were to choose another vendor, this cost would need, the two platforms would need to run parallel to each other until the proper migration can be made to make sure that no equipment asset is missed and all of the appropriate trainings have been put into place to make sure that as work orders are submitted to into the facilities department, they're tracked, reported correctly for maintaining a proper system.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. A question that Mr. Wilcox raised is, what would be the implications if this was sent back to F&O to take another look at it?
We would have to work with the Brightly team to determine whether or not their services would continue. They would shut us off.
As of what day? Do you know?
That we would have to work with them on what that would look like.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Goldson?
So I want to make sure I understood what Mr. Lamb said. They didn't go out for quotes and bids on this in time for us to be able to have it for this meeting. So they are asking us to consider this current contract that they're asking us to consider, and sometime in the future, they're going to put it out, or they have put it out to bid for the future. Is that what I'm hearing?
It has been put out to bid. It has been scored. We're finishing the evaluation of the scoring process to do an award.
So it wasn't put out in time to be able to go into the new year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson.
One of the comments, Madam President, I thought we would have learned our lesson with the bus contract. You know, we've been asking for several years now to put these contracts out 6 to 9 months in advance. to have enough time for switchovers. Clearly, that didn't happen here. It's frustrating that we have the administration coming back to us again and saying, yeah, we made a mistake, but please allow us to not follow the policies that are in place to do these kind of contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Mr. Lamb. Any other questions or comments from? Seeing none, we'll vote on purchase order number 5. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
No.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so that item carries.
All right, thank you. Move on to the next item. I was asked to move separately, and I move that we approve purchase order number 13.
Point of order, Madam President. Mr. Wilcox, I appreciate the fact that you are raising this issue that I sent to you. But I'm seeing now that the item on the agenda the item is actually not on this agenda. It was on your Finance Committee agenda. That was the Valley Communications.
So there is a Valley item, purchase order number 13 on tonight's agenda is Valley Communication System Incorporated.
Oh, okay, hold on. Okay. All right, thank you. Yep, that's it then.
All right, so I'll start again. I move that we approve purchase order under state contract 19 PSX 0015 with Valley Communication System Incorporated.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox and Dr. Yarborough. Mr. Goldson,
Said Dr. Yarborough.
Mr. Goldson.
Oh, okay. This is another one of those issues that we battled with for 7 years. I thought we had fixed it. But apparently it still creeps up every once in a while. This contract began on July 21st. I mean, on July 1st. Today is September, what is this, August 14th. So I'm wondering, there's 2 questions I have. Why are we just getting this request to approve this contract now? And why is it ending in September?
Mr. Wilcox.
Well, we're getting this now because it was on the last finance and operations agenda and we considered it there and moved it forward. And so now it's on this agenda. The second thing is that this contract is in place for the time period until we get the equipment that we've previously approved purchasing to be able to do these meetings in-house. So that's for the short duration of the contract. I'll also just add that we often have items that have a start date prior, like going back to July 1 at this time of year. I went out of curiosity, went and looked at the first August meeting last year. And we had 11 items with a July 1 start date that were unanimously approved. And then I went to the first September meeting and we had 6 items with a January start date that were unanimously approved. And that this happens periodically at great changeovers in terms of the fiscal year and occasionally for after-school programs or summer programs when things are coming together quickly and don't align with meeting dates. So those are some of the reasons why. But I'm comfortable supporting this. This is work that's coming off. This is a vendor was approved through a state contract. So it's a vetting process was in place. We're using this equipment tonight. It's obviously useful to me. And so I'm in full support of this. I will finally say, we remind at any time when work like this is happening, we remind staff that the danger of this is that if 4 of the 7 adult board members on this board said no to this, they're going to be in a situation where they have work that is not approved, but a vendor that's done the work, and that's setting up for a problem. So staff is aware, we bring up the issue. If we weren't in agreement that it should be coming before the board, we wouldn't move it in front of the board. But that's some of my comments on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Golton?
Thank you, Madam President. I honestly thought we had solved this problem several years ago. It's been an ongoing problem for the 7.5 years that I've been on the board. I think it's bad policy for us to approve contracts retroactively. What is the use of having us approving contracts if the staff could enter into those contracts without our approval? These folks have done a terrific job in making sure that our meetings run smoothly and that the public and other board members who can't attend at the time are able to participate remotely. And this is not a question about how well they've done their job. This is about a question about how well we've done our job. Our job is to make sure that they follow the policies that are in place so we don't have $6 million mistakes. And we have to stop allowing this to happen. And whether it happened last year unanimously for 50 items and a year before 100 items, it's still not right. And when we finally say no to them, they will stop doing this. So tonight I'm saying no. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Golton. Mr. Wilcox?
I'll just suggest an alternative to it is that our superintendent has been on the job now. This is, I think, her third meeting. She's heard us make these comments in the Finance and Operations Committee. So I imagine she's taking note on that, and she's going to be working on that issue because it's also helpful for other staff like Ms. DeMayo as she's pulling together agendas to have things in a timely way. So an alternative to this is also that our highly successful and intelligent superintendent, I see her taking notes. And so I'm still in support of this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. I agree. I'm going to support this motion, A, because the work has been done, and B, it's Dr. Negron's third meeting. I'm sure she's, like you said, she's taking note. And hopefully this will not be happening in the future. But I do agree with Mr. Golson that this practice has to stop. Any other questions or comments? Okay,
I have my
seeing
hand
none.
up. Madam Chair, I had my hand up.
I'm sorry, Dr. Joyner, go ahead.
I'm supporting it as well, but we also ought to look into giving the superintendent more discretion. She's highly competent, has great attention to detail. That's been pretty clear. And in certain situations, we ought to try to figure out ways we can give her more discretion if the contract does not reach a particular amount. I think she has some, but that's something we might need to look into. I'd also like to commend both of my fellow board members. Mr. Wilcox also has a great attention to detail, as does Mr. Golson. But if we give the superintendent a little bit more discretion, I think that at least with some of these contracts, we can get a more efficient operation of our organization. And I'm going to support it as well.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Wilcox?
Just one final thing based on the conversation tonight. I'm not saying that this isn't an issue. And one thing that occurs to me is that we'll discuss at the next Finance and Operations Committee updating the cover sheet memo so that if something is coming in with a date that is going to be prior to the meeting, the full board meeting where it's going to be voted on by the full board, that staff will provide that information in the cover memo so that it can be considered not only at that meeting, but it also provides an incentive to staff not to have to do that in order to not have to justify it. So I think we have some multi-layered here to help this moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, we'll vote to approve purchase order number 13. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Golton,
No.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and so that item carries.
All right, now there was, if I may, Madam President, a question for Mr. Goldson. There was another agreement he wanted moved separately. I'm wondering if you had the agreement number? I'm happy to do so.
It was agreement number 13, and it was public good, but it doesn't look like it's on the agenda
Okay.
tonight.
So, so sometimes during the course of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting, the administration does pull agreements based on the discussion. So often what happens in that case, we've had a discussion, people realize things aren't ready, so things are pulled at that point, and that's why they don't end up here. And there might be a difference between those two agendas. But
Right.
what shows up here, we do check that the right ones came over and that the ones that were not sent through aren't on this agenda. So that is,
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. I noticed that I just looked at the record, and at your meeting, there were 16 agreements, and on this board memo was only, it was 17 agreements, and on this board memo, there's 16. So apparently it was removed. Thank you.
all right, thank you, sir. So I'll make the final motion, and that is I move that we approve the 16 agreements, the 21 contracts, the remaining 11 purchase orders, and the 1 MOU as recommended by the Finance and Operations Committee.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Wilcox, Dr. Yarborough, Mr. Wilcox, and then Mr. Goldson.
Just one thing I wanted to bring up on the MOU, one thing that's a little bit different with this is a memorandum of understanding with the Elm City Montessori School. You'll notice that's different from the last time around. I guess if you were on the board the last time around, the financial part of this agreement is broken out. This is the memorandum of understanding. What they're going to be doing is negotiating. A lot of negotiation goes into these memorandums to the financial costs. They're going to be bringing to us the financial agreements. And the question we had at the finance meeting that'll be coming back to us is if this MOU and each of the finance agreements for each subsequent year of this MOU will be coming to the Board of Alders or just this memorandum of understanding, so there was going to be some questions as to exactly what the alders wanted so that we meet the requirement to have our multi-year agreements reviewed and voted on by them. So that will be going. I just wanted to highlight that you are going to see in a future meeting the financial piece to this for what this will cost for this coming year, and then we'll have it each year moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. I just had a question about contract number 11, the Witkowski and Sons tree removal. I'm wondering why does the city, first of all, I can't imagine that we have a whole lot of trees that we're removing from school property, but even if we do, does the city parks department, do they contract out their tree removal, or do they do it on their own? And if they do it on their own, why wouldn't we be partnering with them to keep this cost in-house as opposed to going outside? I don't know if anybody has the answer to that question, but I'm just curious.
Elicker?
We do both. We do some in-house and we do some contracting out. Mr. Lamb could talk to the specifics of this and what trees that may cover that are probably on New Haven Public School property and not technically on the property that the city has purview of. I don't know if Mr. Lamb or Mr. Wilcox have any more information on that.
Mr. Lamb?
And I'm always happy to do things together.
Absolutely, we're a team,
Happy together.
right? City of the board.
Thank you. That's a very good question. The facilities department does work with parks and to remove trees that are on city property as well as on school property. However, that's the larger trees, and they only do. We work with them through the city tree warden, where we have to put in an application to have a tree removed if it's so needed. A lot of what this service will do is for the smaller things, more around shrubs and things that are not covered under the landscaping contracts. A lot of our landscapers do not have the abilities for even small tree removal. So this is more of a supplemental to the landscaping agreement where Parks and Rec and them kind of come together. So it bridges the service between the two contracts.
Can I ask one more question? How long have we been doing this? I never remember seeing this contract before. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but.
With, this is a renewal, so this is the fourth year, third or fourth year of the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Mr. Golton. Okay, seeing no further questions or comments, we'll vote on the remaining F and O items, which includes the memorandum of understanding. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Golton,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so that item carries.
Madam President,
Mr. Wilcox?
in the excitement of the evening, it's been pointed out to me that I neglected these three abstracts, which are the last thing I want to neglect since these are bringing money into the district. So
Okay.
I have an additional F and O motion to make, and that is I move that we approve the three abstracts as listed on the agenda.
Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote on the three abstracts. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Golton,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, so that item carries. Thank you. Students report? No report at this time? Thank you. Teaching and learning report, Dr. Joyner?
No report this time.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Facilities Naming Committee report?
No report this time.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. We already did the superintendent's report. I do not have report at this time. However, I'm gonna just take the opportunity, I guess, to ask Dr. Negron if she would appoint, if she hasn't already done so, if she would appoint a staff person to respond to public comment questions when they arise. I don't think we did a great job, with the previous few administrations. And so I'm hoping that we can enhance that communication. Thank you. Head Start report, Mr. Wilcox.
This will be incredibly brief because our next meeting is this coming Thursday at 5 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Citywide School Building Committee report.
This committee met last Thursday, and the facilities report should be posted with the information of the ongoing major facilities projects, capital improvements, et cetera. One or two things I just wanted to mention that came out of that. One is the continued concern. Dr. Negron mentioned tonight that the field house coming up at the end of the month, there's just some concern about the track surface, et cetera. So that's one thing staff did say, that they're working at finding the right time and the right funds to replace that surface, working with Erica Pachowski on the scheduling of that, since it's a heavily used facility for sports, et cetera. So that's just, while we're there, we can check it out. And the bleacher system as well is so heavily used, and it's has reached end of life. And so it's requiring a lot of repairs. So that was just one thing I wanted to throw out there, since we're all good, hopefully be in that space in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Finance and Operations report.
Finally, just I'll be brief on this as well with finance and operations. In addition to all the action items in our 3-hour meeting, we also are reviewing. We had a good discussion about school building use permits, fees, and rules, and the issues related to that, as well as we started discussion around policy 1330, use of school facilities, just to get all of that in order. In addition, one of the things that we're going to be having on our next Finance and Operations Committee is part of our updating Series 3000 policies. We're going to be looking at 4 information security related policies. They have not been updated in many years. So, and things move fast in that space. So we've been working through all these policies, and now it's time for those. So that's also something that we'll be working on to send to the governance committee at some point, probably in September. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Goldson?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm particularly interested in seeing what the school use policy, what we're going to do with that. One example, a leader of a local Latino church was trying to do a 2-day event community event where they were doing financial literacy, a bunch of other stuff. And the school system was going to charge them $20,000 to do that event. 25,000 was some outrageous price. After some intervention with the board president and several other board members, they were able to bring that figure down to 0 because it was a community event. But again, we don't know how many of those kind of events didn't happen because they got bills similar to that. So I hope that we have a policy that really takes into account that our school buildings should be the center of our communities, and that community groups should be able to access them without undue cost. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Mr. Wilcox?
I'll just invite everybody to take a look as part of the meeting materials for last Finance and Operations Committee meeting. There was a report on space usage. Our buildings are used quite a lot and at quite cost to us. So we are, there's a lot of interesting data there about the use, the kinds of use, who's using it, the costs to the district, the costs that we recover, we don't recover, et cetera. So there's a lot of good data there, as well as what the draft policy is, which is also, centers, obviously, school use, the educational purposes of these buildings has to be prioritized, but also reinforces that these are public buildings, that where possible, we do want to have a process where it can be made available when it doesn't disrupt the school activity. So that information's there, and invite everybody to take a look.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Seeing no further questions or comments, we'll move on to the governance report. Dr. Benitez?
Good evening and thank you. First of all, I have to thank the FNO team for providing us with materials for our meetings quite readily, and that is very much appreciated. I want to encourage other members who are working on other areas, policies, to send us, even if it's one at a time, so that we can continue to work on them. As you know, the FNO team is working on Series 3000, and we have four reviewed and revised policies that we will be reviewing during governance on the 28th of this month. We are also working on protocols for DCF and suicide prevention. These are things that we have passed, but we want to make sure that schools also have enough support in order to implement these revised policies. Additionally, as part of our work around transgender and non-conforming youth policy, the policy that we passed, the board passed, we are working on school strategies to complement the guidance document created for school administrators. So we are making sure that not only we are revising policy, but we are making sure that if there are policies that have cumbersome implementation, that the team finds the way to support the staff in implementing those new policies. I also want to thank the teaching and learning team. I know that they want to continue to support this work, and we would gladly work with them if you need any clarification. We are hoping that you can work on Series 6000. And I know you have a great team that can support that. I'm a little bit biased because that was the team I last was part of as a staff member in New Haven Public Schools. So I am sure you can start sending us at least one policy at a time. But you do have the manpower. I make myself available if you want to have special meeting where we go over them, and we can ask Ms. Jackson and Ms. Ong to meet with us so that we can help and support your work if that was necessary, as it is necessary for me when I'm working with them on Series 5000. I do appreciate the support that both these colleagues are providing to me in the process. And that will be my report. If there are any questions, that will be my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Questions or comments for Dr. Benitez? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the Food Service Task Group report. Dr. Yarborough?
Thank you. Yes, we met on August 9th, and this team, the staff are doing the annual review of the allergy plan with our community partners. As well, we continue to talk about sustainability of our food and updating our new director on what has been learned about what we currently do and also what we still need to do. As well, the school district is completing its summer meals, and it is also starting up with its meals for the school time. During the period where the summer meals end and school time begins, there's a gap, and there's a very active food gap subgroup that works in collaboration with the district to provide food for students and families, and that will be happening August. That's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Questions or comments for Dr. Yarborough? Mr. Goldson?
Madam President, I don't want to prolong this meeting, but I've been hearing stories about a lack of funding to continue with free lunches. Are we being affected by that at all? Dr. Yarborough, have you heard that?
That is a good question, and we will talk about it at our next food committee
Wil-
meeting.
I think Mr.
I don't have
Wilcox
a
might
direct
have a
update on that.
response. Mr. Wilcox?
If I may, that is not affecting us. What it is affecting is schools that were not able to offer free lunches before the pandemic. The pandemic funding for those free lunches are running out. And so there's various states where that's becoming a big issue, and for various school districts. My understanding is in Connecticut, Governor just I think had a press conference talking about funds for this year for those school districts that wouldn't be able to still continue with those free lunches. But in any case, those don't affect us because we're funded for those through the federal programs due to the amount of students in our district that are experiencing poverty. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
I think
Mr.
he asked the
Goldson?
question, but I know the answers.
Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments,
Madam President,
go ahead, Mr.
for
Goldson.
your executive session, I think there is a typo. It says General Statutes 1-200, and it says and 1-201. It's actually, I think, 210.
Okay, it says 210 on my copy. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna move the two executive sessions and I'll name who we need for each, so that we can just go into executive session for both. And then we'll call in Attorney Cieda Milan for the second part of it. Or should we do it for the first part? Attorney Alexiadis. First, okay, perfect.
She costs more.
Okay, so I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 12006B and 1201B9 and 10 regarding records, reports, and statements of strategy of or negotiations with respect to the collective bargaining at local 287 and records of communications privileged by the attorney-client privilege or relationship. And for that executive session, we will ask Dr. Negron to join us, Attorney Alexiades, and Attorney Sierra Milan. And then the second executive session, we will ask Attorney Sierra Milan to, will excuse Attorney Sierra Milan and its executive session to discuss the theft of New Haven Public School funds pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Section 12006E and 1210B3 and B3D regarding discussion of any matter which would result in the disclosure of public records or the information contained therein described in subsection B of the section 1210 and regarding information to be used in a prospective law enforcement action if prejudicial to such action.
Madam President, point of order.
Mr. Golton,
First executive session, it should be 1-210, not 201.
you're saying you wrote Attorney
That's
Alexiadis,
the
one,
wrong-
two,
That's the wrong state statute.
1210, okay, 1210
1210.
B and 9, okay. Okay, so as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Yarborough. Any discussion? Mayor Elicker, Attorney Alexiadis?
So there's two Freedom of Information Act. There's
I can't hear.
1-200, subsection 6 lays out the grounds for executive session. And then and there are various categories. And then subsection E is a catch-all category that cross-references 1-210, which are the various documents that are exempt from public disclosure. And so one of the grounds for executive session is that it would result in the disclosure of exempt materials. So both executive sessions are under various subsections of 1-200 or 1-210. I would suggest that with regard to the cyber theft issue, that you also include as grounds 1-206 subsections B and C, which have to do with pending claims and security matters,
Okay.
both of which are
But
the
do I,
discussion relates to
should I restate the motion for that executive session?
where
or
you can
just-
just incorporate
add-
what I just said.
Yeah, so we're just gonna incorporate 2006 E, B, and C.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Mayor Elicker?
I was just going to suggest that Dr. Negron may suggest who might be appropriate if there are any staff to participate in the cyber executive session.
For Dr. Negron?
Yes, I would like to invite to join me Tom Lamb and also Edward Connolly.
I'm sorry?
Thomas Lamb,
Uh-huh.
who is our chief
Mhm.
operation officer, and Edward Connolly, who is our network administrator.
Oh, okay. Okay, and so we'll invite, for the first part of the executive session, we'll add Dr. Negron and Attorney Sierra Milan. For the second part of the executive session, it'll be Dr. Negron, Attorney Alexiadis, Tom Lamb, and Edward Connolly. Attorney Alexiadis will remain for both. You don't get away that easy. And does the second remain the
Yes.
seconder? Yes, thank you. And seeing no further questions or comments, we'll vote to go into executive session. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Golton,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. And so that item carries. And I just need to know what room I can go into with my laptop. So we're going into executive session.
Different room.
You hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
no, I just said that we are out of executive session, back in regular session. There were no votes in executive session. But two motions will be presented and I called on you.
Okay, Madam President, I move to ask the board to approve the tentative contract between Local 287 and the New Haven Board of Education discussed in executive session.
There a
I
second?
second. I second.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner and Dr. Benitez. Any questions? Or discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the contract. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and that item passes.
Madam Chair, I have a second motion.
Dr. Joyner,
I move to ask the board to authorize Mrs. Yesenia Rivera, President of New Haven Board of Education, to execute the final agreement between the two parties, the New Haven Board of Education and Local 287.
thank you, Dr. Joyner. Is there a
second.
Thank you, Dr. Benitez. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote to approve the president to sign the contract. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Guerrero,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, so that item carries. And that being the last item, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Mr. Wilcox, Mr. Wilcox, we're voting on the item. Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Benitez,
Yes.
Dr. Yarborough,
Yes.
Mr. Musser, Mayor Elicker,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well.